Hello, viewers. Good evening. How are you today? We hope you've been having a fantastic weekend so far. Well, I've been trying to. A lot of things have been happening. International flights have resumed in Nigeria, and due to I don't know what to call it. I don't know what exactly is going on with the Nigerian government. That there's so many flight disruptions. They're changing so many stuff on the fly. The COVID-19 test seems to be a bit of a contentious issue for them. They don't seem to know exactly what to do, and it would be a miracle, for things to get back to normal at the very, you know, at the very earliest, to say the least. Now, Nigeria has been going through a tough time. There's been a massive dip in the forex exchange rates. I don't know if I should call it a crash because it's quite something else when you look at it. You look at the dollar going all the way to 485 naira at some particular point, and a lot of questions need to be asked. But then again, you now see that there's a lot of taxation being introduced at the same time. And you now start to wonder, are you supposed to be taxing people at this particular point in time, or are there supposed to be palliatives towards the people? Some of the palliatives have been announced by the federal government over time. Nobody is really sure what has happened there so far, especially when you look at the issue of the minister saying they actually gave out some certain billions of naira to some hundreds of thousands of people, and nobody seems to know who was giving any money at any particular point in time. Today, we are going to be discussing Nigeria's economy, some of the pertinent issues that need to be addressed, and we have an expert in that area that's going to come on the show. I'm not an expert when it comes to finance or to the economy, so he's going to be doing a lot of the talking. He's going to enlighten us quite a lot on a lot of things that we are not aware of. His name is Moses Umoru, and he is the Director General of the Nigerian Franco or the Nigerian Franco Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Pardon me. I'll bring him into the studio right away. Hello, Mr. Moses Umoru.
Hello, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm great, and yourself?
Yeah, fine, fine. Yeah, doing well. Great.
There seems to be a lot of disruption. The disruption even affects the internet. Everything is just a bit, Nigeria, Nigeria just keeps having challenge consistently, and we just have to wonder what exactly is going on. Why do we have so many challenges in Nigeria? Now, you are an expert when it comes to finance, budgeting, when it comes to international trade. Can you give us an insight from your own perspective of what you truly think is happening, especially when you look at the currency just going out of the roof? What exactly is happening?
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's great to have it's great to be invited to this show today. This is the first time I'm having a live radio show event, and it's a bit new to me. And I'm delighted
Thank
to be
you.
here today. But of course, yeah, when it comes to Nigeria or developing economies in the world, I would want to put it that way, because I do not necessarily believe in throwing out figures or regurgitating figures. These are figures that are out there. The World Bank has produced figures. Of course, the African Development Bank have produced a lot of figures as far as developing economies are concerned. But the most important thing is this. I'm going to look at this from the perspective of our budget to our GDP, and then, of course, the issue you have mentioned, which has to do with the naira dollar exchange, which is a function of demand and supply in economics. So if you look at
Yeah.
the budget was an adjusted version of the budget was approved at the end of June this year during the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic is still on, but compared to June, at least we're better off. And then that adjusted budget was around 10.8 trillion naira, right? So if you look at the budget, for
Yeah.
example, 2.4 trillion naira was in capital expenditure. Now, 4.9 trillion naira was in recurrent expenditure, and 2.9 trillion naira was in debt servicing. Now, when you have an economy that has more recurrent expenditure than capital expenditure, you already know that that economy is going towards a downward spiral. Because of course, governments are the largest spenders in any economy, right? So when you look at a
Yes.
budget where you are spending more money in paying salaries, which are recurrent expenditure, than putting in infrastructure like power, access road, and of course the telecommunication we're talking about, and the rest of them, then you know that things are going to be a problem. Now, if you look at the developing economy like that of Nigeria, 52% of business costs goes into power. I'm trying to create a perspective here. 52% of business costs goes into power. What that means is that if you do not make provisions to fix the problem and reduce that cost of power, then businesses are going to go down. That's the way it works. Now, we have a COVID-19 situation. Businesses were shut down. All sectors except the communication sector was shut down. Hospitality was the worst hit. Airline we're talking about, also the worst hit, and the rest of them. Now, what is the government supposed to do? In any economy, there's what we call the circular flow of income, right? And
Yeah.
expenditure is always an injection into the circular flow of income. Governments are the biggest spenders in any economy. The issue we should be talking about during this period is what we call unconditional cash transfers to relevant
Okay.
sectors to boost those sectors of the economy.
Excellent. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
is that the situation right now? The opposite is just the case. Instead of unconditional cash transfers and boosting the sectors, we're extracting from the sectors. For example, I'm sure you've heard the latest about increase in oil price, pump price of fuel,
Oh yeah.
of course the that for power and all of that and the rest of them things that are
Yes.
collapsing now. These things are going to stifle the economy. Now, I'm going to look at perspective two, which is our gross domestic product. Second quarter 2020, a few weeks ago, the result came out. Nigeria is currently on minus 6.10% as far as GDP is concerned. Both the oil and the non-oil sector experienced over 6% decline. Was it unexpected? No, it wasn't unexpected. Now, the problem we're having in this economy is not a problem of necessarily knowing what to do, but the problem of a reactive approach as against a proactive approach towards handling economic issues. Now, we know that
Yeah.
because businesses were shut down, GDP is the cost or the naira value of goods and services produced in any economy. If the businesses are shut down, definitely it's going to bring about a negative return. It was expected already. That is why the advanced economies like that of the US were putting trillions of dollars into the economy as palliatives, right? Because
Yeah.
they know it's going to affect the GDP. But now the central bank of Nigeria has not done the same. Maybe they were expecting that there was going to be some miracle of some sort, that businesses are going to make money by shutting down or something like that. That is why there was no proactive approach towards fixing the issues that have to do with businesses, right? So all sectors, out of 30 sectors, is only a few, like that of the financial sector, agriculture sector, food production only, that of course experienced a positive return as far as the gross domestic product was concerned. Every other sector experienced a negative GDP. So now, what is the way forward? It's not just about highlighting the problems, right? Like I said before, the governments are the biggest spenders in any economy. If you're going to fix Nigeria, right, there are two ways. We all do budgeting at the corporate organizational level, right?
Yeah.
If you cannot increase your revenue, reduce your cost. Maintain the revenue at status quo, reduce your cost. Now, the cost of governance in Nigeria, I go back to the budget, 4.9 trillion as recurrent expenditure. 80% of that cost is salaries. The cost of governance, the cost of ministers and the Senate, and then special advisor to the special advisor on the special advisor related issues has to go. The cost of governance should be reduced. These funds should be put in capital expenditure, fixed roads, fixed power. Most businesses have said that we do not need any problem. We don't need all this issue of regulations here and there, here and there. If the government can fix the infrastructure, because the government are called business enablers. They're called business enablers. They're supposed to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, not to stifle businesses. So if you fix the issue of good roads, access roads, fix the issue of power especially, you will discover that businesses will thrive. And when businesses thrive, I'm still talking about the secular flow of income. And when businesses thrive, they are going to pay taxes. Taxes become government revenue. Government will take these funds and do more for the economy. Now, the problem we are having is the government, they are coming up with levies.
Levies. I find that they are made that at this point in time, that they will be coming up with. I was initially taken aback. Let me first go back to the power issue. You mentioned earlier that the average business spends about 52% of of their budget on power. Was that prior to the 100% hike in the power tariffs, or after?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, before then.
Yes.
Before then.
So now,
please.
Now that's about that means there are about 76% of a company of a business's budget will go towards generating power. That's just what it means.
Of course. Many businesses are definitely going to go under. And when you begin to increase the cost of doing business, as against providing the enabling environment, they call it the cost reflective tariff, as against service reflective tariff. Now, what is cost reflective tariff? You cannot come and tell us that you're going to increase cost, not services. Now, if you increase your services, if you have constant supply of electricity, it is not a problem. Why? Because grid power is the cheapest form of power. Now, the 52% of business cost is because the businesses don't even have access to grid power. So they have to fuel their generators with diesel, and this constitutes the cost that they are acquiring. So if you make the power, if the supply is constant, it is not a problem at all. Let it be service reflective tariff. Better service, increase your tariff. We do not mind. Of course, businesses will strive under that circumstance. But it's just about cost reflective, not necessarily service reflective. You can't do that. And you can't be bringing about these things right now. And please, government should understand. I kept talking about it. All my engagements with key government functionaries, we keep mentioning it. That please, the issue of levies is a myopic system of blocking the revenue that comes from taxes in any economy. The biggest revenue for any advancing government in any economy is taxes. Taxes most times for government revenue for advanced economies is close to 60% to 70%. But of course, in developing economies, because of the informal sector, they are not in the tax net, it becomes a totally different issue. But of course, what am I trying to say? Now, if you levy businesses so much, I was hearing about Lagos State government levying Netflix, Umoru TV, and the rest of them.
We were expecting that something like that would come, but we did not think it was going to come on a state level. We actually thought they were going to implement it on a federal level, and it was already an issue. So for Lagos State government to now have come up with that as well, that was a massive shocker to myself. I was like, why the double taxation?
It was a massive shock. No, levies, I can't stress it enough. Levies are a short-term ways of blocking revenue from. Now, when you levy businesses, and businesses cannot survive, they go under. And when businesses go under, they don't pay taxes to government. So at the end of the day, government is losing revenue from taxes because of levies. And that is what they need to understand the economics of levies. Levies is a problem to taxes because the businesses are going to be stifled, and then their revenue will decrease. And of course, you cannot get taxes from them, which are regulatory payments that are made to government and the rest of them. So right now, what are we trying to say? There has to be short-term shots into the system. The Central Bank of Nigeria, there is what we call the Monetary Policy Committee. They meet that decides the level of cash flow in any economy through the commercial banks. Now, it is called cash reserve ratio. Now, the central bank holds a particular percentage of money from every customer deposit, right? So our cash reserve ratio currently is 22%, right? So I think the government should reduce that amount of money. Let the commercial bank have more money in the commercial banks to be able to give to SMEs. Now, if you say, for example, you cannot be able to make funds available, which is called unconditional cash transfer, let there be single digit interest available for businesses. A loan that where they can easily pay back at this point in time is very, very fundamental. If you say, okay, commercial banks, make funds available to commercial banks to give, or development banks, or the Bank of Industry to give to SMEs, because the reason why I keep mentioning SMEs is this, I'll tell you why. 89% of businesses in developing economies are from the informal sector, and they are small businesses. And these are the businesses that are employing 5 people, 10 people,
2 people, 2 people, 3 people.
It has a multiplier effect, because 89% of employment are in that sector. How many people are the advanced businesses employing today? How many are they, first of all? And you just understand the economics that goes with the whole thing and all of that. So that's the way it works. So government needs to make sure that SMEs are thriving in this economy, because it's very, very fundamental. Very, very fundamental.
I agree with you, because in developed economies that I have noticed, like take for instance, in the UK, 68% of labor is employed by the SMEs. In the Republic of Ireland, where I live, the multinationals employ less than 11% of the workforce. What beats my imagination is this: is there a communication gap between, take for instance, the monetary committee you're talking about at CBN, the advisors to the president or the policymakers, or whoever they might be, and the business community? Is there no channel of communication that has been developed in order for there to be a symbiotic relationship, so that they can be able to develop policies that are workable, as against policies that are, totally destroying the economy?
Now, one thing we have said is that now we do not know who is necessarily in charge. We have the economic.
We don't know who is in charge.
Yes, we have the economic team. We have a team led by the vice president. We have the Central Bank of Nigeria working, and we have another team called the team that does what we call the ease of doing business in Nigeria. When you have a lot of this, and if you remember, just a few days ago, last week or thereabout, the president announced nine economic points that he wants to drive in the next 3 years. 9 points. Right now, we do not need all these many points here and there. In fact, even for you to articulate and understand the points, 1 year would have gone already. All we need is a 1-point agenda, a 2-point agenda, and say this is where we are going to. This is the policy direction, and we are going to fix this. When we fix this, we go to the next. It's normal project management skills. So you start to start, or you start to finish. That's the way it should work. And you say, okay, we are going to deal with transportation. And when we are done with that, we go to the next. You can't have a 9-point agenda and then you expect that to be able to have this octopus approach towards goal achievement and achieve all of them together. It's not possible. So the problem now is, who is leading this? We do not know. And most of the times we engage with this, they're engaging with that, they're engaging with this sector, they're engaging with that sector. Now, so there has to be leadership, first of all. It has to be synchronized. Everybody has to come together and say, okay, this is what we want to do. The central bank should agree with the economic team, with that of the ease of doing business team led by the vice president, and then come with a policy direction that even international investors can also have. See, right now, they say investment is risk shy. Yes, it's very, very risk shy, and runs away when it comes to uncertainties. So the reason why our foreign direct investment keeps dropping every time, it's not necessarily because Nigeria is not a good place to do business. There are opportunities here, but it's that the policy direction, it is not very clear. And the problem we are having is policy flip-flop. You come with a policy today, before we digest that policy, you are coming with another policy tomorrow. So businesses cannot factor their risk into the first policy, knowing fully well that tomorrow you are going to wake up and come with a new policy. So these are the problems we have. We need one direction, and then we can see things able to go forward.
There doesn't seem to be any coherence when it comes to the government and their policies, and it affects every facet of life. I have had an experience today, as a matter of fact, where a policy was changed practically overnight. Now, I can't
Hmm.
imagine the amount of people that that would have affected out and out, especially when it comes to their finances. And I'm talking about, the issue of air travel. I can't imagine how many people will be stranded in transit
Hmm.
based on policy change that just seems to be arbitrary. Now, when you look at the taxation in Lagos State, for instance, it also seems to be the same thing. There just seems to be a vicious cycle going around. So whether it is the federal government or the state governments or the local governments, there just does not seem to be any coherence when it comes to policy making. Why are we getting it so wrong in the Nigerian context?
Because if you look at Nigeria, for example, one particular case is this, where regulators, for example, I'm talking about the NAFDAC, the transportation, and the ports and all of that, are seen to be doing business as if they're in the private sector. Where regulators have a mindset that they have to, at the end of the month, they have to remit back into the federal
Yeah,
government coffers, as against ensuring that businesses maintain standards, then you have a big problem. Now, for example, the two regulators in Lagos State will come and tell you that, we have been given a target to government regulators, we're giving a target. And therefore, they don't necessarily care whether businesses are making money or not. They hit fines on businesses. Why? Because they want to extract from businesses and they want to meet up with the target. And both at the federal level and at the state level. So even regulators have to be given an orientation in this economy. I personally think so, just from my head, anyways. And to be on this, and they have to. Hello,
hello.
hello.
Yes, we lost you there for a second,
Okay, I
but
can.
it's great.
Yeah. So
Yes, we can hear you now.
yes, yes. So yeah, the role of regulators is to ensure that is to ensure compliance as against extracting funds, right? And
Yes.
that's what they need to understand. And that is the problem that is affecting this country called Nigeria. That's it.
Now, there seem to be a lot of agencies. Even when you look on the streets of Nigeria, you just see so many uniforms. You start to wonder what is going on. All of them
Exactly.
duplication of duties. This still goes back to your initial point of cost of governance. Government is a higher
Exactly.
spender, we agree, in almost every economy. But when government is spending, should it be a case of government is employing for the sake of employing, or government should be employing to make sure that you be able to provide services? Now, you have 2.5 trillion budgeted for debt service. You're not providing any services, but you're borrowing the monies. Where are these monies going? Where are they going?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that this type of things will be
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
in
Yeah. Yeah.
countries
Yeah.
like
They're all
Nigeria.
going to.
Hello? Hello?
Hello. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can
I
hear
can hear
you
you.
now.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. So
Okay.
if they are spending 3 trillion more or less for debt servicing, where exactly do they expect to get these funds from for the payback structure and all that? When you're taxing small and medium scale businesses out of business.
Now, coming to the subject of debt servicing. Debt servicing is it's another very complex subject that from an economic perspective is always a very dangerous subject. Now, the federal
Okay.
government is making an argument that debt debt to GDP in Nigeria is around 6%. That's what they say. And they keep pointing the argument to the private sector. Our debt to GDP is low. Ghana is around 20% and other countries. But we don't look at that statistic debt to GDP. We look at debt servicing to revenue ratio. Now, after the
Okay.
first quarter of 2020, Debt servicing to revenue was 99%. You know what that means? It was used to service outstanding debt. Now,
99%.
the question now is, this money that has been 99%, 99 naira for every 100 naira generated is used for servicing of debt in this country. Now, so now the question is, the money that are being borrowed, what are they being used for? We discovered that the monies are also being used for recurrent expenditure. And just a little chunk of it is used for capital expenditure, which most of the times is misappropriated. We don't want to start talking about the fainting and the rest of them. It's an issue that I feel at this level we don't even want to even bring this issue up and the rest.
Yeah.
In terms of misappropriation of funds. But the question now is, monies that are being collected are used for recurrent expenditure, which is not good for any advancement in any economy. So you borrow to pay salaries. And then if you want to pay salaries tomorrow, you have to borrow for the ones that you have borrowed before to pay more salaries. And it's never sustainable in any economy. And you come and tell us that, oh, our debt to GDP is very, very low. No, the question is how much are you generating and how much are you using to pay your debt, because these are statutory payments. And we're talking about debt servicing. Debt servicing is not principal. Debt servicing is the cost of interest on those debts. So the
cost of interest, yeah.
Somewhere. Yes, and the principal is still compounding somewhere, which is a discussion for another day, right? So it is never sustainable. We need to begin to look at how to generate internal funds in the economy. And I'll tell you why I said so. If you look at the agri GDP, for example, agri GDP for 2020, second quarter is around 19% growth in agri GDP. 85% of the agri GDP is crop production. 85% is crop production. What that means is that we are producing, but we are not creating value. Now, PricewaterhouseCoopers did a report. 6% of the value chain from cocoa was a case study. 6% of the value chain was just from production alone. The remaining 94% was in value creation. So the reason why the economy, why we are not earning foreign exchange, is because we are not creating value from our agricultural produce. And why are we not creating value from agricultural produce? It's because of the gap in the environment. Cost of doing business in Nigeria. Cost of doing business is so high. So farmers will prefer to harvest and sell, as against harvesting, processing, and selling the end products, which comes at a higher cost in terms of the value chain. And that's the problem we are having in the country today. And we just need to fix the business environment. Can we just focus on fixing power, focus on fixing access roads, and let's see how businesses will thrive?
No, you know what I don't understand is this. Like I said earlier on, they have a lot of agencies. We're going to go on a very short break. When we come back, we're going to want to find out from you, what is the purpose of the National Economic Reconstruction Fund? We'll be right back shortly after this commercial break. Hi, folks. If you're just joining us, you're welcome to another edition of Just Banter. And today we're discussing Nigeria's economy, finance, and budgeting. And we have a very interesting person on the show today. He's an expert in international trade, finance, and budgeting. And he's giving us deep insights onto what exactly is wrong, telling us why there's no proper communication. There's so much to hear. Now, I'm going to be bringing him back into the show. His name is Moses Umoru, and he's the DG of the Nigerian Franco Chamber of Commerce. Hello. Can you hear me? We seem to have lost your audio there, Moses. Can you hear me? No, we can't hear you. There seems to be a small challenge with his communication. It's part of the issues that we're discussing actually right now. This is a country that is taxing everybody out of business. The services are not working. Nothing is working. And then you keep on taxing the businesses. Why are you doing that? We don't know why the Nigerian government, not showing us exactly who is supposed to be leading the economic team. If the business owners don't know who's leading the economic team, if the CBN is not telling us who is leading the economic team, and the federal government is not telling us who is leading the economic team, how do we know who to address the problems to? It's a major challenge. Major challenge. We seem to still not have Moses back. I don't know what's going on with the internet connectivity, but it's Nigeria. We experience that all the time, as opposed to other countries where it's just once in a while. Hello, Moses, we still can't hear you. Hello? Okay, so if you can hear me, probably maybe if you log out and log back in, you will be able to, maybe we can get your audio back. So while we're waiting for him, I had a small discussion with somebody a few days ago, and the person was telling me about a small logistics company in Lagos State that was trying to set up. They were going to be using bikes to be doing distribution of goods to different people, especially for those doing e-commerce and all that. And they actually had to get about 38. Yes, you heard that right. 38 different licenses for their bikes. How do you survive as a small business in Nigeria when you have to go through that? Let's bring Moses back into the studio. I hope he has his audio back now. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Fantastic. You're back. We can hear you now.
Okay. But I was hearing you all along.
Yes, you could hear us, but we couldn't hear you. And like I said earlier on, we are used to that. We know what the infrastructural challenges are in Nigeria. We hope that at some point something would happen. But how something is going to happen when we don't even know who's heading the economic team is what I do not know. But before we went on a short break, we were going to ask you a question. And that question is, what is the purpose of the National Economic Reconstruction Fund, NEFUND?
Well, we have been asking the same questions ourselves. We set up not too long ago. The fund, of course, is to boost critical sectors of the economy. The subject matter of critical sectors of the economy is something that we have been trying to define ourselves for a very long time. The question what are the critical sectors of the economy? That narrative, we are trying to put funds in the critical sectors of the economy. And then those funds are not going into power infrastructure. Those funds are not going to small businesses that are dealing with agriculture and the rest of them. Those funds are not going into transportation. And then you keep asking yourself that you're putting funds for the critical sectors of the economy. And so that's the purpose of the fund, to boost the critical sectors of the economy. Now, right now, we do not know the headwinds of this fund that has been set aside. We don't know how far they have gone with it. Another fund, of course, that's also run is the excess crude oil account. That, of course, if you look at our budget, for example, and the amount budgeted for oil from the budget is $28 per barrel. Brent is selling at above $40 per barrel. So in terms of excess crude oil, there's a lot of savings from the excess crude oil account right now. And of course, they say these funds will be used to boost critical sectors of the economy. But you discover that most of the times what happens is this, that from the excess crude oil account, sorry I'm diverting a little bit, I'll still come back to this one.
No,
from the excess crude oil account, from the excess crude oil account, the governors of state, because there is no legislation. Now, when you talk about policy in Nigeria,
sorry, there's no legislation The excess crude oil account.
Yes, yes. There is no legislation to back up the excess crude oil account, right? So that is why state governors can easily wake up in the morning and say, yes, give us this money, it's our money. And then they take it back to the state and use for salaries in quotes and whatever they want to use this money for. So before we begin to talk about things in Nigeria, here, we need to look at sustainability of policy. And for you to sustain your policy, it has to be backed up in law and enforceable. If you look at policies that are not backed up in law, you cannot enforce it in Nigeria. And that is where we're having a lot of this problem. So coming back to the National Economic Reconstruction Fund, it's a fund set aside to boost critical sectors of the economy, set up, and then with having in mind for the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan of Nigeria, injected into that very, very robust document, 2016 to 2020 document. And of course, they are revising the document now, Economic Sustainability Plan going forward, 2020, of course, to 2030 going forward and all of that. And so far, so good. It's to boost critical sectors of the economy, but we do not know what the critical sectors of the economy are. That's the problem.
That's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, possibly every government that has come into power in Nigeria keeps coming up with some visionary policies. So during the tenure of General Sani Abacha, we had the Vision 2020. Yeah. We're in 2020 now, and we probably had maybe another 15 different policies or visions that have come into play. They keep coming up with all this National Economic Reconstruction Fund. When I first heard it, the first question I asked myself is Nigeria at war? Because as far as I'm concerned, when you come up with a National Economic Reconstruction Fund, what that basically means is that your economy is totally destroyed. You have policies that are geared towards the economic resuscitation. But in this case, you cannot even tell us, or quote unquote, you cannot admit to us that the economy is in dire straits. And then you now come up with this type of policies, come up with an agency called National Economic or what a Reconstruction Fund, and then you now start diverting funds to it. Now, the shocker of all shockers, you are telling us that there's no legislation to back the excess crude accounts. So when you have this type of, I don't know the word to use. I'm trying, not to be on air, so I'm trying not to use the words, that are coming into my head. But when you have such issues, is this a systemic failure, or is it a case of it is this particular government? What is your opinion?
Yeah, for me, it's not a case of this particular government. We're talking about we were engaging at a World Bank session, and this issue came up. And then when we're discussing that, one of the things that we brought about is that the issue of policy that changes with election cycle has to stop in Nigeria. There has to be a sustainable system. There has to be sustainability. See, government is a continuum, first of all. And we need to understand how government works. That whoever takes over should continue from an existing policy. You don't bring down the house and begin to build the house again and say, we're going to build it towards the right. And then the next person comes after 4 years and say, no, we're going to build this house towards the left and bring down the same house again and re-budget for the house and want to build the house towards the left. And that's the problem we're having in this country. Election cycles, change of policy. We need to stop it. We need to ensure that the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, 2016 to 2020 document, is a very robust document, talking about the ease of doing business in Nigeria, focusing on gaining power, electricity, visa and arrival, and too many issues and all of that they are dealing with. Now, if this document can be sustained over time, the economy will grow, and if there's proper leadership, which we lack right now. So the problem we are having right now is not a question of willingness to do it. It's a question of saying that, okay, I want to do my own. I don't care what you have done before, whether it is good or bad. I want to do my own, so therefore I'm going to drop what you're doing, and then I'm going to start my own. Now, how about if I don't finish it in the next 4 years? The next person that comes to say, okay, I don't like what you're doing, I want to start again, because they want to budget and re-budget, and of course, contracts going left and right for starting a project from scratch and the rest of them. So this issue of policy with election cycle, I think that is where we need to nip it in the bud. That is where the problem is coming from. Every 4 years, new policy, every 4 years, new policy has to change. Understand? Operation Feed the Nation of the
Yeah.
era. Understand?
Yeah.
So many policies I can't even remember before we were born. Coming up, 2020 agenda, 2020, and the rest of them. Right now we are coming with sustainability agenda again because we've not been able to achieve anything. Because every election cycle brings about new policy. Government must, if the government is going to develop, government should see itself as a continuum, and there has to be a continuity in the implementation of existing policies and strategies in the country. That is just the way forward.
But don't you think, that Nigerians probably, for the way they love buzzwords, the politicians have understood that Nigerians thrive on buzzwords. So they keep coming up with these buzzwords and use them for their campaign slogans and campaign, policy for their formation strategies and all that. Sustainability. Now, when you talk about sustainability, what have you developed in the first place that you want to sustain? You don't have good roads, you don't have good education, you don't have good healthcare. So when you talk of sustainability, what exactly do they mean when they say things like that? They just keep throwing these buzzwords, and I keep asking myself, is it a case of because Nigerians do not, or rather Nigerians have a very short attention span, that this type of things happen, that Nigerians just do not realize that there's something very, very fundamentally wrong?
Yeah, if we talk about the subject of sustainability, I might want to go with this perspective. I'm going to use the ease of doing business agenda being led by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, as a case in point, right? So it started in 2016. And if you look at the World Bank ranking, Nigeria has climbed over 32 positions since this whole thing came on board. Right now, we are in 131 from 168 position we were before. And right, there is development in that sector in terms of, in that aspect, in terms of the ease of doing business. And if you look at the starting a business, for example, was a point they looked at. Automating regulatory processes. For example, the ports, looking at CAC, for example, you go to CAC website now, you can be able to, register your business without having to meet anybody in person and the rest of them. State governments were asked to automate their processes, enforcement of contracts, getting permits and the rest of them. We started it 2016, 2017. Things were going on very, very well. Look at where we are now in 2020. Go to Twitter and discover that, for example, now, if you want to register your business now, CAC is not going to respond to you again. So the issue of automated system of registering business now is no more working as before. That is the sustainability we are talking about. We started well, but are we going on very well? That's the problem. Enforcement of contracts, getting license permits and the rest of them from regulators. Are they still going as the way they were going on before? There was a platform where you can be able to complain about regulators, even a mobile app on iOS and Android. Those apps are no more working again. Sustainability, these are the questions we need to be able to answer. Well, it's not about starting it, getting those rankings. It's not about the ranking. It's the ranking, the target. And there is a difference between ease of doing business and ease of starting business. And that is one thing that we need to understand. Ease of starting business is registering a business. Ease of doing business is sustaining the business when you have started the business. Is the environment conducive enough to be able to run your business? These are questions that have to be answered, So to me, I think what we're doing here in Nigeria is ease of starting a business as against the ease of doing the business. And even the ease of starting a business is now becoming very, very difficult. It's now difficulty in even starting a business because, of course, CAC website is not necessarily, you won't get, we test this thing. So I have tried one. Currently, it has been pending for over a month and I've not gotten a response from the Corporate Affairs Commission. So it's not what I heard. It's what I have experienced personally. So these things are falling apart already. They're falling apart already. So that's it.
Last week, I saw something on Twitter. The managing director of a bank in Nigeria was talking about what Nigeria needs. And what he was saying was that what Nigeria needs is food security. Now, I'm not an expert on finance. I'm not an expert on the economy. I'm not an expert on budgets. But when the managing director, the policy driver of a financial institution in an economy is saying that food security is what the country needs, should we be asking questions?
In the Nigerian economy, everybody wants to throw the blames and not take responsibility. You know, you know, the cost of development or the pathway for development in developing economies has to become a hybrid approach. It is a policy-driven approach by the private sector led, government supported system. It is not government led, private sector supported system. No. And that's the problem we're having right now. It is a private sector led, government support system that works in any economy. We call the Nigerian economy a private sector driven economy. And if you ask yourself, in the real sense of it, is it a private sector driven economy? Private sector should look at all the shots on issues of food security. They should to, for example, we have the Anchor Growers program that is almost being led by the government. The Anchor Growers program, which is supporting farmers, should be led by the private sector. Of course, private sector, they are supporting from the sidelines, but it's being driven by government. See, government has no business doing business. Government has no business doing business
whatsoever.
What they're supposed to do is to provide an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, right? So when private sector players are beginning to say things like, we know that their hands are tied because of policies in this country. Their hands are tied. Their hands are really
tied. Their hands tied because when you look at it, coming from, like I said, the policy driver of a financial institution like a bank, I found it worrisome because as far as I was concerned, the first thing anybody needed to do when you see such a statement was to go and look at the policies of that bank. What kind of businesses do they support? Do they actually support those businesses? Let it not be just on paper. Now, Nigerian banks, the cost of funds is astronomical. They have all sorts of excuses for those costs of funds, but they also find it very, very easy to loan money to politicians who are going on campaigns or somebody who has just won an elective office. So how is it a case of it is the government policy that supports them loaning money to politicians as opposed to loaning money to micro, small, and medium scale business?
Well, that's a very sensitive question, and I'm trying not to answer the way I want to answer. I'm trying to choose my words carefully.
Please, tell us your thoughts. Because I still find that pretty amusing when they talk about government policy affecting cost of funds, and I'm like, okay, I just wish you could explain this cost of funds to me a bit more. But I've never met any one of them that has been able to do so.
We're having a big. I'll just answer with this because we had a business breakfast session where there was the banks and of course private sector businesses and we're talking about healthcare, funding healthcare, for example. That was the case in point.
Yes.
Right. So the bank on the panel, of course, the senior and executive director of the bank at that level, decision making level, was like, we're trying to understudy, the sector to understand how we can be able to fund the sector. And one of the panelists interrupted him immediately. I was like, please hold it. That you give huge funds to oil and gas servicing contractors, illiterate, people that cannot speak English without any documentation. You throw funds, you even invite them to come and collect funds. You throw funds at them because, of course, you just want to support whatever, whether they are bunkering the oil, whether they are even exploration and exploitation of the economy. You fund these people, and then we're talking about critical sectors of the economy like healthcare, and then you're talking about you understanding how you can be able to fund healthcare. So the question now is, it's all about the willingness to support critical sectors. It's the willingness. It's all about willingness at the end of the day. It's all about the need to do these things. So it's not a question of whether they don't know what to do or how to do it. It's a question of the willingness. And why do you think Nigeria is chasing oil and the rest of them? Of course, it generates a lot of income for us, right? Because it's a cheaper option in terms of foreign exchange, earnings and all of that. Of course, we could have earned more from agriculture if we were exporting a lot as far as products. Look at minerals, for example. We would have earned more from that aspect. But because oil is a cheaper option, that is why we are focusing on that. The same thing with banks, how they do their own thing. So if they see a cheaper way of getting their funds back, that is where they put their money. That is how I can answer it. I still don't want to. you know.
It's amazing that till tomorrow, a lot of Nigerians sit back and do not ask enough questions, especially when it comes to the banks. I have always believed that the primary driver of any economy is the financial institutions. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I believe that if the financial institutions were actually supporting the small and medium scale businesses, even the micro businesses, there should be quite a lot of development. Then you can now start talking about cost reflective, taxes and those kind of, financing and all those kind of stuff. But the banks just do not. And I still believe that they are the primary, what's the word I was going to use? Culprit, for much of a better word. I think they're still the primary culprit when it comes to the issues that we have in the Nigerian economy. I don't know if you agree with me. Hello?
Well, when it comes to the banks, I think, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the bank, yeah. Can I go on?
Yes, please. We're listening to you. We can hear you. Hello?
Hello?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh,
Okay, so we seem to have lost him again there. So probably maybe Nigerian banks have decided that, his internet connection has to go down so that he won't be able to answer those questions. But like I said, in my opinion, I think Nigerian banks are doing a lot to make sure that the Nigerian economy does not grow. How do they make their money? I have no idea. They keep declaring profits after profits after profits every year. And a lot of funny things happen. One of the banks happens to give some support to the federal government on COVID-19 and all that. And immediately afterwards, decided that they were going to fire a huge number of their staff. Why did they give the palliative if they're going to fire their staff? They don't need that staff those staff in the first place for them to have fired them. Okay, I think we've got Moses back. Let me see if we can bring him back into the studio. Hello. Hello.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, okay, all right.
I can hear you.
So I was just telling the viewers that I hope not a case of the banks have called the telecoms companies and told them shut him down so that he won't be able to answer the questions.
Okay. So as I was saying, I think it's from the regulatory side of things. Of course, the banks, they have their own side of the blame. But one thing we have advocated for is that the regulators need to begin to look at it. And who are the regulators as far as finance is concerned? The Central Bank of Nigeria, right? They hold their monetary policy committee meetings and decide on cash reserve ratio, interest rates, and all of that. And one thing I need to mention is this. Now, our cash reserve ratio, I need to explain to our viewers, our cash reserve ratio is between 22 to 27%. What that means is this: for every deposit that is being done by any customer, the banks can only give out 27% of that money as loans. Now,
okay.
What we are saying now is the central bank should come up with a policy and extend this cash reserve ratio to around 30 to 35%. Not just extending the cash reserve ratio to that amount, but stipulating by law that 7% of this money, and if you know how much is 1% of cash reserve ratio from all the 25 big commercial banks in Nigeria, you understand what I'm talking about. if 7% of this amount of money can be focused on the MSMEs, I am sure. And then you ask that this money should be given at single interest. The problem we have now is we need to forget this issue of moral submission. I think enough of the issue of commercial banks, please give funds to the critical sectors of health, give funds to agriculture. No, moral submission should stop. We need to begin to tell the banks by policy and by law that this is exactly what you need to do, enforceable with, of course, with fines for deterrence, and say, okay, get 7% of this money, right, and then give it to MSMEs or give it to the critical sectors. I am sure that will work. That will work. So the issue of let the banks decide how they want to do it, it won't work that way.
But I thought that the CBN had a policy like that about 2 years ago, where the banks were mandated to give a certain percentage of their cash reserves to SMEs. What happened?
Well, I think the policy that was given to the to commercial banks was the loan deposit ratio policy, right? And say, okay, for every deposit you get, you can give out this money as loan. And are you aware that the average interest rate for loan is around 25 to 27%? What means that?
Oh, is that low in Nigeria? Is it that low in Nigeria now? 25, 27%.
Yes, of course. 27%, of course. That's if you're lucky anyway to get that rate. You know, it depends on your negotiation skills and how you can to, you know.
What I know is about 31 to 33%. As of the last time that I had any financial dealings in terms of getting a loan from a Nigerian bank.
Yes. There are some institutions that will give you up to 40%. It depends on your negotiation skills. But I'm thinking that I'm looking at the base level in terms of what they are giving out.
Yeah.
And 25% is very high.
It's ridiculous.
You have to. It's ridiculous as interest for loan. So when would you be able to inject funds into your business? And most of the time, the tenure for the loan is around 1 year. How would you be able to get your returns back? And what business can you do to be able to get 27%? Except the MMM that run the money at the end of the day. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So I think from the cash reserve ratio angle,
yes, the cash reserve ratio. Please go ahead.
Yeah, from the cash reserve issue angle, the central bank should stipulate by law that the bank should give out 7% of that amount, set aside that amount for the MSMEs or for critical sectors at a single-digit interest rate. We need to have a clarity. It has to be clear. You don't use moral suasion. You don't say, please do it or please don't do it. Let them know that this is what they have to do. There has to be injection into the circular flow of income. There has to be funds in critical sectors of the economy. Without funds, businesses are going to die, right? Businesses are dying already. It's not even a case of business are dying. They are dying already. They are leaving the country already. So we need to support businesses, and the commercial banks plays a fundamental role. I mean, a fundamental role in ensuring that the funds are in critical sectors of the economy.
So let me ask a question. It's related, but it's a little digression, and it's based on the Franco-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce. Now, I'm sure that there will be private equity investors from France who have interest in doing business in Nigeria.
Yes.
They probably communicate with somebody like yourself to find out data, analytics, stuff like that, how they can do business in Nigeria. What are can you share some of their thoughts on the level of uncertainty in Nigeria?
That is the first question they ask when they want to do business in Nigeria. In fact, I was just dealing with a few of them a few days ago. Yesterday, I was responding to some emails and all of that as to the policy certainty for the federal government. And one question they ask is repatriation of funds. Oh my God, I cannot say that enough. You come into the country with funds, you do your business, and you cannot take it out. That is the most frustrating experiences businesses are having right now. Getting their funds, forex, out of the country.
Out of the country.
And it's a really big problem. And another thing they're looking at is now, because of this the difficulty in starting a business. There's what we call foreign direct investment, in investment and foreign portfolio investment. Foreign direct investment has to do with setting up shop in the country. You come, you buy infrastructure, you buy a building, and then you're operating in the country. Foreign portfolio investment is investing in the stock market, getting forex and investing in the stock market, right? Foreign portfolio investment cannot boost an economy, because if you're investing in foreign portfolio, you cannot create jobs from foreign portfolio investment. It's foreign direct investment that creates jobs, because they're going to employ people, they're going to employ laborers, they're going to employ experts to fix your accounting and the rest of them to do your business for you. So most investors now are not using the joint venture options, international investors, using the joint venture option. Okay, Nigerian businesses are existing already. Okay, you're doing well. Okay, I'm going to buy part of your shares, which is foreign portfolio. And then we'll see how we can do your business operations. Because of the difficulty in starting a business and be able to grow on your own with the whole regulations, and then you have taxes and the whole fines and all of that. It has become a big problem. A lot of us are trying to deal with this issue. And trust me, there are some things I don't want to let out. I wanted to do the case study and mention the company, but if I do that, it's not too good for the company in France, and of course, hearing from the regulators here in Nigeria. But a lot of difficulty even in setting up shop in Nigeria. It's like the government is proud that it is difficult for businesses to even set up.
To set up in the country.
Yes.
Wow. Now, our viewers, as usual, we have overrun our time. It's always a fantastic time on Just Banter, because like we said, we keep saying, we always try our best to bring guests that will give you deep insights into any issue or discussion that we're going to have on the show. Mr. Moses Umoru, we could go on and on and on. I did not know that time had, flown like that. And, and we are done an hour so easily.
Yeah.
We hope we're going to have you back on the show at some point in time, soonest, hopefully.
Yeah.
Like we keep saying, these are discussions that we continuously need to have. We should not keep on discussing the problem. We need to start discussing the solutions to Nigeria's problem. If Nigeria's problems are solved, half of the problems on the African continent will be resolved. And then you will not have the mass migration and brain drain that you have from Nigeria, especially because you have so many brilliant, intelligent, and talented people coming out of Nigeria. They show it and display it everywhere they are in the world. We're very grateful to have had you on the show. We hope we'll see you again very soon. And we hope that your chamber will continue to contribute to the improvement of the financial sector, international trade in Nigeria. You have a great and fantastic night, and we'll see you again really very soon. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Have a great evening. Thank you. So there you have it. Mr. Moses Umoru. Now, that's amazing, isn't it? Another expose. So there's no legislation to back the excess crude accounts. So when there's no legislation to back something of that nature, of that magnitude, what that basically means is that there are no rules and regulations to guide what happens to that excess crude account. We hope Nigerians will start to ask questions. We hope this conversation that we keep trying to start, we have truly started it. We hope it will continue. We hope to be able to sustain it so that we will drive that sustainability agenda ourselves, and hope Nigerians will pick up on it and truly start to ask the right questions. It's been a fantastic show, fantastic evening. Time flew, as usual. But we will still tell you that you need to keep safe. Yes, our social messages, we never forget. So, COVID-19 is still very real. Yes, I even did a COVID test sometime last week. Not a pleasant experience, but it has to be done. You have to do your status if you need to, that is. If you're coughing, you feel sick, anything, you just don't feel well, your temperature is skyrocketing, stuff like that, please get yourself checked. It's very, very important for you to stay safe, stay healthy, so that you can live long and healthy. Keep the minimum 2 meters distance as recommended. All over the world, it's the recommendation. Wear a face mask. Wash your hands as regularly as you can so that you do not transmit the infection either to yourself or to other people. Now, on the issue of rape, we keep saying it. We hope that the campaign will keep going on. Sometime last month, there was a protest in Liberia, in capital Monrovia, where people came out and were protesting strongly against the issue of rape in that country. A company, it's a media company that we have an affiliation with. They broadcasted it almost 24 hours, following up on the issues there and all what done. They're Cool FM in Liberia, not Cool FM Nigeria. So it was very, very popular. Everybody saw it all over Monrovia, Liberia, but we also saw it where we were. And we were mentioning it as well, that there's a protest on the issue of rape going on. And we hope at some point in Nigeria, people will get up and say it needs to stop. Especially when you look at the fact that 25% of women and 10% of men under the age of 18 have experienced sexual abuse, i.e. rape. That's a huge number. That's 1 out of 4 women and 1 out of 10 men. And the most vulnerable are children and women. So please, please, and please again, use the hashtags that you see on the screen. Send out the message. Let people know that you don't support it. You don't have to go to the streets to go and protest, but you can actually say something by just saying something on social media. Use the hashtag no excuse or use the hashtag no to rape. The song by our favorite person, because that song is a campaign song for the no to rape. The title of the song is No Excuse. That's one of the reasons why we use a hashtag as well. So please go to YouTube, watch it, support, like, share, comment, so that it can gain traction, so that more people can see it on YouTube when they search for social issues. We thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight, and we hope we'll see you again soonest, which is next week, Thursday. No, probably Thursday we might be doing a replay. We're not sure yet. We'll let you know, of course. And we have a brilliant guest also lined up for the next show. So we'll see you then. You guys have a great night and remain blessed. Good night.